Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, July 1st, 2024 pre-council meeting for the City of Joliet. Mayor Terry Darcy presiding.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Darcy.
Here.
Councilman Cardenas.
Here.
Councilman Clement.
Here.
Councilman Guerrero.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilwoman Ibarra, absent. Councilman Mudrin, absent. Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, next the city manager will review tomorrow's agenda items.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I will start with appointments. We have an appointment to the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. The mayor is recommending Tom Ponce to that board. Then we will have committee reports tomorrow, approval of minutes. On the consent agenda, is somebody saying something? Oh, okay. Part of the consent agenda, Council Memo 31124, award of professional services agreement for development review and planning assistance for the Compass Business Park to Strands Associates, Inc. in the amount of $205,000. Council Memo 31224, award of a professional services agreement for professional engineering support services to Baxter and Woodman, Inc. in the amount of $150,000. Council Memo 31324, award of professional services agreement for the Water Loss Control Technical Assistance Program to Kavanaugh Associates in the amount of $248,412. Council Memo 31424 and Council Memo 31524 originate from the same contract. 31424, we are approving change order number 1 for the Olympic Boulevard Hobolt Road improvements to PT Farrow Construction Company in the amount of $347,850.97. Council Memo 31524, approve change order number 2 for the Olympic Boulevard improvements to D Construction, Inc., reducing the amount by $409,100.82. Greg Ruddy is prepared to answer questions if you'd like to know specifically what the issues were here with some topsoil, etc. Would you like that explanation this evening?
Yeah, Greg, you want to just take us through that? I know we did that earlier, but.
Sure. No, so the Olympic Boulevard project, which has been broken into 2 contracts, was originally conceived as 1 contract. One of the items on there is non-special waste disposal. Non-special waste is spoil material from the project that is not contaminated, but it's also not suitable for road building. So when the project was broken into 2 separate contracts, one being the bridge and one being the roadway, that item was inadvertently left on the bridge contract when it should have been on the roadway contract. So these 2 change orders are simply moving it from the bridge contract to the roadway contract. There's no cost increase. It's the same item, it's the same volume, and it is the same price. So it's just moving it from point A to point B. The reason that the numbers are different on the 2 change orders is because there's a couple other things involved in those change orders. So it's not exact, but that major item for both of those change orders, the deduction from the bridge contract and the add to the road contract, those numbers are the same.
Thank you. So we're netting a less, a $61,250 less expense on this because of some of the spoils being able to be reused.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes the consent agenda. Moving on to agenda items, Council Memo 31724, award of contract for Chicago Street Streetscape, Jefferson Cass City Square and water main improvements to Austin Tyler Construction, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $20,107,270.88. I understand that a question arose in the previous committee that public
service, yes.
In public service, Councilwoman Reardon, if you'd like to highlight what that question is, and then Greg Roddy is also available to respond to that.
Okay. Well, our question was, Larry had brought up that he had received a call from someone stating that the contract was not specific to whether they had to be IDOT certified as a general or as a sub. And so we just wanted clarification on that.
Yeah, we'll have a clarification for you, written clarification tomorrow. The contract documents, I believe, say that pre-qualification needed to be included with the contract documents that were submitted. I don't believe it was, but we'll get a clarification for tomorrow night's meeting for you.
Right, I think what we discussed, Greg, was there's two types of pre-qualifications with the state. There's a subcontract or a contractor pre-qualification, and
Correct.
then there's general contractor pre-qualification.
Correct.
And it seems like maybe it intended, we're trying to find out if it intended to be general contractor, but wasn't listed as general contractor. So the low bid came in and put a lot of effort into their bid, not realizing that they have a pre-qualification, but not for general. That's where we're at with that.
That's correct, and we'll get you a written clarification.
And
I'll
the other
send
thing
that
Greg
to
was gonna
everyone.
dig up was the breakdown of costs, how much is going through the streetscape. Back in the fall, the individual who was asked to do this and never came forward with it no longer is with the city. Because of the rising costs, it seemed to be, nobody had a handle on the cost for the downtown plaza. And they were going up above what was brought to the council when it was approved. We never did receive that itemized last fall, and that individual since left, and I think Ray's gonna try to find out that
Yeah,
information.
that's easy enough to do. We have that information. So we'll get all that information, all the council members tomorrow. We'll send it out via email.
So that's why it did come out of committee today with no recommendation whatsoever.
We'll be sure to get all that information. I also like to highlight that we did contact IDOT after this, knowing that they were certified as a subcontractor, but not as a general contractor, and asked IDOT for clarification. And they said they don't qualify because they're subcontractor. So if they don't qualify, then IDOT won't give us the money to use on the project. So we will outline all of that for you, point by point tomorrow.
Right, and our question isn't whether or not they would qualify, that's certainly obvious. It's whether or not the city put out the right bid documents, because these private companies put a lot of time and money into these bids. You know, this company that was the low bidder by 700,000 or 800,000, and maybe very well qualified, but not technically that's great. If it was their oversight and it said specifically you must be qualified as a general contractor, and they assumed their qualification as a subcontractor was the same. But if it didn't say general contractor, we wasted their time. And how do we make them whole?
We have no problem getting you all that documentation.
Thank you.
Okay, no licenses and permit applications for tomorrow, no public hearing. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions. Council Memo 31924, a resolution approving City of Joliet's senior snow project for inclusion in drafted action plan as a program year 2024 CDBG activity. So the remainder of these resolutions will all have to do with the CDBG funding that we received from the federal government and how we will be dispersing them to the community. Next, Council Memo.
Excuse me, Mayor. Question.
Yes.
Is it going to be allocated like we did just past
Yes.
year? Okay.
Yeah.
You had, if you really needed it, you had to prove that you had a disability because some folks were abusing it.
Abusing it, yes. So this year, we plan to keep better records of who will be qualifying. We'll be clear about who qualifies, who doesn't, and who's on the list. There will be $45,000 allocated as well this year. So we're trying to get rid of some of that abuse that happened in the past as well, and we can bring all
Hard to
those.
keep track of, but I understand that
Yeah.
there was, I had people calling me, and I'm like, and they actually were disabled. And
Right. No, we are aware of those issues and are moving to rectify
I even
them.
shoveled snow with Tom one time.
Yeah, the mayor was out there himself last year. I saw
Oh, we all
pictures
were
of
doing
it,
it.
so we were all doing it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Council Memo 32024, resolution approving Latino Economic Development Association LEDA Business Assistance Program for Inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 3.
Mayor,
Yes.
question is, this might be for Chris. Now, we have a newly hired economic development director, and this individual, I don't know if this individual is still part of the LEDA board.
She's not. She resigned before she started this job, and she did not apply for this
Okay.
grant. Her name is not on any of the documentation. I did take it upon myself to find that out because I could anticipate those questions, so.
Yeah, that would be a conflict, so we need.
It would be a
clarify
conflict,
for
and
everybody.
we checked it out before I brought it to the council.
Okay, thank you.
Council Memo 32124, resolution approving Spanish Community Center ADA accessibility for inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 32224, resolution approving Stepping Stones roof AC repair for inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 32324, resolution approving United Cerebral Palsy safety and security cameras for inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 32424, resolution approving Will County Center for Community Concerns driveway improvement for inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 32524, resolution approving Will County Center for Community Concerns housing counseling for inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 32624, resolution approving CASA of River Valley attorney guardian ad litem for inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 32724, resolution approving Catholic Charities at Diocese of Joliet safety project for inclusion and drafted action plan as program year 2024 CDBG activity. Council Memo 32824, resolution authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Joliet and Presence Central and Suburban Hospitals Network, also doing business as Ascension St. Joseph Medical Center. Chief Carey is here to answer any questions that the council may have on this one. Seeing none, moving on. Council Memo 32924, resolution approving intergovernmental agreement with Plainfield Community Consolidated School District 202. Chief Evans is here from the Joliet Police Department if there are any questions. Council Memo 33024, resolution to approve the Poet Laureate contract for 2024 through 2026. Ray Heitner from Planning is here if anyone has any questions on this.
Mayor, I do have a question. When they had Poet Laureate Night, I understand that there was a gentleman that did a beautiful poem about Joliet. Is this the gentleman that's going to be appointed here? 'Cause I
Defer
didn't
to
catch
Ray
his name.
on that.
I'm not quite sure which candidate you might be referring to, but Uxmar Torres was the winning candidate for the competition.
Well, I had a couple neighbors tell me it was beautiful. They went there that night. I couldn't go, and it said it was an
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful poem about Joliet. And I thought maybe it should be read here in council chambers at a council meeting, but I didn't know if this was the person that had written that or if he was the winner. I didn't know.
Yeah, so every candidate was requested to write a poem either entitled Joliet or symbolically about Joliet, and so
We can find out if you tell us
Yeah.
what the event was. We can find
Okay.
out who it was.
sure.
He might even know his name. I'll run across the street tonight and ask him.
Okay, certainly.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. I want to go back to the last item. Chief, as far as our resource officers at the high schools?
Yes.
We haven't changed anything, right? Nobody's being charged for it. They're all,
No change
this is just
whatsoever.
housekeeping to renew it each year.
Just redundant contract, same contract every year.
Thank you.
Council Memo 33124, resolution authorizing task order 4 to the professional fee agreement for water and sanitary sewer engineering services associated with the Compass Business Park. This will be reviewed, or was reviewed by Public Service this afternoon. Council Memo 33224, resolution appropriating rebuild Illinois bond funds for the Chicago Streetscape, Jefferson DeCass, City Square, and Water Main Improvement Project in the amount of $2,501,760. And this is just a resolution required for IDOT to pass the resolution to accept the money that will get you all the other information on tomorrow. Finally, Council Memo 33324, resolution declaring certain real property as surplus and authorizing the sale of said surplus real property. We're selling 7 residential parcels. And Chris is here to answer any questions that you may have on this.
Mayor, seeing that's the last thing, I got a question. And you know what? Some of the people involved in the working up memory aren't here anymore, so possibly somebody could reach out to Kendall Jackson. Do you, I don't know, well, the councilman and others not here, but Jan, do you remember we used to, as part of the CDBG, a portion of that money was used to buy and fix up houses, and then they were sold to qualifying lower income. Remember, Jeff Gregory was in charge of putting the houses with the candidates?
It's a while ago. Huh?
Yeah, if you check with Kendall, I don't have the details committed to memory. I'm curious why we don't do it anymore, or if we can start it again, because that was always exciting, wasn't it? They bring them forward to be. I remember those several times. There was a mom with a couple of children, and she's getting in her first house. You know, she's working her tail off to raise her kids, and she's getting in her first house. The city got their money back on it over time. You know, even though it was grant money. And Jeff Gregory is the other person you can reach out to, because he knows it. He's a local real estate agent that was kind of tasked with being the tip of the spear on that. Am I correct, Jan?
Yes.
So Kendall, I know we do some
We
consulting
do.
with Kendall. So ask Kendall about that, because it would be kind of neat to kind of revive that program.
Yeah,
Because it
we
really-
have had discussions about reviving that.
Okay.
Michael Sinnott from Neighborhood Services brought that forward to us already, so I don't know why it was discontinued at what point, but this is very
There were a lot of
helpful.
lawsuits from the federal government that tied up our CDBG funds. We had over $1.2 million that was tied up for years,
Okay,
going way back to the Evergreen Terrace fight.
okay,
Let us never speak of that again.
Yeah.
All joking aside, yes, there was some weird stuff that went on with the CDGB funds, and I'd like to see getting back, spreading the money around the city.
yes, no, I'm glad to hear that coming from the council. I think it's a great thing as well.
All right, thank you.
Exciting.
And you'll report back when you,
Absolutely, we'll
Thank you.
report back, yes, when we get all the information.
Just a comment. Wasn't there a program along with that before they were able to get the house? They had to go through a training program about how to care for your home and who to call and what to do.
I believe you're right.
Because a lot of these folks have lived in apartment buildings, they just call somebody, and then when they get these homes, they don't know who to call or what to do. They got a leaky faucet, what leaks forever, and then they exorbitant water bills. So, yeah, that's part of the program. We can make that. That was really something.
I think you're right, Councilwoman, and what would be very interesting, just, kind of tickled this in my mind, to reach out to some of those recipients and see how they're doing.
Yeah,
I mean, we can keep them anonymous. If they're going along in their private life, they don't want to be brought back up there, but it'd be nice to hear that, several of them are doing this, and
Success stories.
yeah, their kids are in college now, and whatever is going on, and it really did make a difference in their life.
great, yeah, I will be sure to talk to Kendall and get all the information that I can on
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to ask one more question about CBDG. Last year, obviously, was my first year here, and there was kind of a chart that showed the funds that were given out, and they came in different buckets. There was only this percentage got it, depending on the need and the use. Would we be able to have that tomorrow, just so that everyone can understand how this nearly $1 million is divvied out, and what different segments of the needs there are that this percentage got this and so on? It helped me last year to understand it, so when I'm looking at the numbers right now, I don't quite remember how that thing bucketed out.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Thank
think that already exists, and so we'll have Jackie and Michael give a presentation on that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I might add, we discussed all of this at the committee level. I was waiting till tomorrow to do the report to bring it up, but while we're on the subject now, so we are coming to the conclusion of our 5-year consolidated plan for CDBG, and we kind of discussed this at length, that in planning for the next 5 years, that this is an opportunity to get input from the council members of what direction we want to take the our next 5-year plan. So these ideas about, as Councilman Hug brought up, are all things that we can kind of take into consideration. And then we also asked if we could have it available for the council, the breakdown of how those funds are distributed by category, what the caps are, as well as the rubric to determine how the selection was done for all of the organizations that applied. There were some questions about the organizations that had applied for the funding but were disqualified for one reason or another. That either, and I think all of them were just simple cases of ineligible programs, as defined by HUD for what the money could be used for. But we'll have explanations of that in detail tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I, maybe Chris or Beth, how many vacant pieces of property we have left? I know if this passes tomorrow, and then how are we trying to offload these?
So currently, we have about 115 throughout the city that, again, we've identified as surplus. We don't need them for any reason, but we are still paying to maintain them, which is why we decided to try to move them. So this was started with the former economic development director who did advertise these properties. We had a handful of people reach out, and as we all know, there was a bit of an interruption in service in that department. And so we kind of shepherded things along for a few months, but we now have a new director, and we are meeting with the new community development department to get some protocols in place for this program. So really, this initial batch were people who reached out to us within the past 6 months. We got the properties appraised, and they're paying the appraised value for them. It's that simple.
Yeah, this is a nice start, so.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions for me, that concludes my report.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening? Seeing none, I did receive a request for closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel,
Excuse me.
collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
Sorry, I just have one quick comment I want to bring up to the chief, and I think we all received this email today. It's from a gentleman who was having some issues on Theodore and Route 59. Did you read that email yet, Chief? No, ma'am. Okay. It came in about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and he was requesting some formal response to his complaint, so I thought, well, I'd just bring it up now so he knows that we are paying attention, but it may not be like that, like today when 3:10, after he sends the email. But I just wanted you to be aware of it, because we all did get this particular email. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition, or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Hi.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Mayor Darcy?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I didn't get a chance to